Hey everyone, how's it going? It's Andy here again. Today I'm going to be doing a book review of a book I read recently. It's another Star Wars book from the Expanded Universe, which is no longer canon, but I just feel like talking about it because I quite enjoyed it, and it fits perfectly in with Star Wars canon. I think they should make a canon again. This is a bit of a different video. I'm currently in Cuba with my family on vacation. I'm at a resort. And there is internet here, but it's a little lackluster because the internet infrastructure here is very underdeveloped here in Cuba, as some of you may know who have traveled here a lot. But that is a whole another thing for another day. So, also because I did not bring like a proper computer to record with, or my phone doesn't enough space to like film videos, I'm just doing this audio recording instead of the book review that I read. So the book that I have read is called Kenobi by John Jackson Miller. It is a Star Wars book from the former Expanded Universe. For those who don't know what the Expanded Universe is, basically before Disney bought Star Wars back in 2012, it sort of all really started with Timothy Zahn's The Thrawn trilogy, Higher to the Empire. Like in 1991, I have already reviewed this book, actually, as a matter of fact. I've probably seen my earlier review. But as a matter of fact, they released a sequel trilogy to sort of like Episode 6, so sort of detailing what happened afterwards, and it was just, they're considered the best Star Wars books ever, in general. Like, I haven't read any of the new canon, nor have I really heard anything about it. I've just had my friend, William, tell me a few things about it. He says they're pretty good. But, no, it comes out with this new sequel trilogy. It's pretty good. I've read all 3 books and meaning to review the other 2 books, but I got distracted with school and life. Stuff like that, but he basically releases this trilogy of books, reignites George Lucas's love and appreciation for the series, and that helped inspire him to create the prequels, and we all know how that turned out. So, so basically this whole new range of Star Wars related material and literature and films released, and that was sort of known as the Expanded Universe. So in 2014, yes, it was 2014, I believe, Disney decided to get rid of most of the established canon. So prequels are still canon, original trilogy is still canon, Clone Wars TV show, Star Wars Rebels, the sequel trilogy is obviously canon. The Old Republic is not canon, as I previously stated in a video. There was a golf cart going by people. Do you not want to look like a weirdo? I'm just sitting there, okay, just ignore that. Just ignore the sound. Yeah, I know that's a little weird, but, no, yeah, so, new... for the stupid golf cart to go away. Anyway, so yeah, they released all these new books into the Expanded Universe, and Disney declared the majority of them not canon anymore. Like, I think like 90% is not canon. So this one particular book that I've read, though, it's called Kenobi. I don't understand why it's not canon anymore. I mean, it fits in perfectly in between Episode 3 and Episode 4. There are a few references here and there to the Old Republic, so I can kind of understand why they remove it, because they have to make the Old Republic canon again, and I don't fully understand, like, the full scope of the Star Wars Expanded Universe. So if they brought back the Old Republic, does that mean they would have to bring back other stuff from the post-Episode 6 canon into the new canon universe? So I don't fully understand. This is a lot of really complicated stuff. It makes me sound like a giant nerd, but I started to explain it to make sense to people in the simplest ways I can. So Kenobi is about Obi-Wan Kenobi, as you know. It takes place in 19 BBY, which is before the Battle of Yavin. That's sort of like 80 BC in Star Wars, like how they measure stuff, so like the Battle of Yavin, where they blew up the first Death Star and everything. After that, before, yada yada yada. But basically, it's set in 19 BBY. Obi-Wan Kenobi has just recently gone into his exile on Tatooine, and he's watching over Luke Skywalker, what he is with the Lars, who I was unaware of, and I had completely forgotten that Owen Lars is the half-brother of Star Wars, because his mother got married again, but we all know what happened to his mother. All the women, sorry, Star Wars memes. Yeah, but more or less, it's set then, and it's him looking over the Lars farm where Luke is growing up. He brings him to Tatooine as a baby, as you see in the end of the 3rd Star Wars episode, but you don't really know what happened to Kenobi in between that time. Like, I think what they've done in Star Wars Rebels is that they've sort of brought him back. They had him face off against Darth Maul, and that sort of finished off his story, even though he showed up in Solo, a Star Wars story. Spoiler alert for that, but I don't think that's ever going to get a sequel, which is a shame, because it wasn't a half-bad movie. It's just, it was poorly made. It wasn't the best made. But anyway, so it's basically set then, and it's him sort of settling into Tatooine, and he's, like, completely on the run. He's hiding from the Empire, obviously, and he has to protect Luke, who's, like, the last hope for the galaxy, as you know. Like, if he's gone, it's a nightmare. And Leia does get Force abilities later in the canon, but, like, Luke was the obvious candidate for that. There is still golf carts going by, and it makes me look like a weirdo when I'm talking like this. Just wait for it to go by, alright, go. Yeah, but anyway, so my general thoughts about this book. So I found the beginning a little slow. I found it a little hard to get into. I don't know if that was probably like jet lag when I was reading the book on the plane, or just sort of stuff like that. But once I got into it, like probably about 100 pages in, I really started to dig it. Like I really started to enjoy the writing style, and I found that the book struggled a little bit focusing on Kenobi. It doesn't really focus on Kenobi himself. It focuses on other people he interacts with, and when he first moves to Tatooine, like there's a character named Anleen, I can't remember her name, Wendell, I think it is, and her children, Jabe and Kaylee. And then there's all the other settlers in the area. And it also talks a lot about the Tuscans, and I really do appreciate how it shows more of Tatooine that we didn't see in the films or the original trilogy. Because Tatooine just knows the desert planet where Luke is from, where Obi-Wan Kenobi went to his exile. We know about the Mos Eisley Cantina, we know about Han Solo, but we don't really know anything beyond that. Like, we don't learn about it more in depth, unless I'm missing stuff from the new canon that they've added, or other stuff that is in the canon. I think there was a toad sitting in front of me here in Cuba, I don't know. A lot of random stuff is happening around me right now. You may hear the bugs in the background as I'm currently outside recording this, so I look like a bit of a weirdo when I'm talking. But basically, so it's basically that. It mainly focuses on Obi-Wan Kenobi, the Tuscans, and this family, Aileen, Jabe, and Kaylee. Mainly focuses on them, and the writing style of the book is really good. I really appreciated it. Like, I didn't even know this book existed until like a few days ago, when right before I left for Cuba. I went to a used bookstore. I was buying Christmas gifts. There's a used bookstore chain in Toronto called B&V. Great place. I highly recommend it if you want to get really good quality books for low prices. Not promoting them or anything. It's just personal recommendation. But I came across them like, oh, this is interesting. I've never heard of this book. And this book about Obi-Wan Kenobi, right as he got to Tatooine, and sort of shows like what he did right before like episode 4. This like doesn't take place like right before episode 4. Like literally takes place right after, where he fought Anakin. He was left him dead on the volcano planet. I can't really remember. I have the high ground. Yeah, you know that stuff. And it's just started after Padme's died. He's on the run from the Empire. In the book a lot, he's writing meditations to Qui-Gon Jinn, his former Jedi Master, who passed away in episode 1. He was killed by Darth Maul. So that's basically it. And the main conflict of the book, spoiler alert for the book, but the book's came out like 5 years ago, but it's no longer canon, so I think it's okay if I talk about spoilers. But for those who still want to read it, just bear with me. But basically, it's about conflict with the Tuscans. However, there's been like a lot of like back and forth, like a lot of starts setting up this conflict with the Tuscans, even though the Tuscans are quite nasty. But what I do really appreciate about this book is that it shows this stuff from the Tuscans' point of view. There's one particular Tuscan character named Ayark, who is sort of like a matriarchal leader of the Tuscans, the Sand People in Tatooine. You know, when Luke's in the valley and he's getting shot at by the really known guys, they're going, yeah, you know, those guys, and then Obi-Wan comes and saves him. That's the first time he, quote-unquote, sort of meets him. But yeah, so I really appreciate that. It really showed you stuff from the Tuscans' point of view, because they were just like cannon fodder in episode 4. Like, you knew nothing about them. You didn't give a shit about them. Pardon my French. But, yeah, I really appreciate the book. It showed us sort of how the Tuscans function, how their society functions, and that they're just people. They're trying to survive like everyone else can, and despite them being sort of bloodthirsty savages, like why they're attacking people, you can kind of understand why it's justified, because there's a certain character in the book called Orion Galt, I think his name is, and he sort of sets up these fake attacks on the Tuscans to sort of use it as a ploy to shell cheap weapons, basically to make money, more or less. So that's just what he's trying to do. And you really do get to appreciate and understanding the character. I did find the main family first a little annoying. That was the gripe I had with the book at first. But then, once I got into it, I really started to like the characters. Like, they were well developed. I actually cared about them. There's one point in the book where he felt like, oh crap, the son Jade, you think he dies at one point, but he doesn't. But the best part of the book is obviously Obi-Wan Kenobi, or Ben Kenobi as he's known in the book. And he's such a badass, man. Like, He goes to great lengths to avoid Lars, because even though he knows them and they know that he's there watching over Luke, they want him to, like, sort of avoid being away from Luke because of the fear that it might bring the Empire upon it. Totally understandable, totally justifiable, given, like, who Obi-Wan is and the pressure, and obviously who Luke is and stuff. But, yeah, but sort of you have several points in the books where, like, Obi-Wan's like, oh crap, I gotta avoid them at all costs. Like, at one point, the family goes to Mos Eisley, and they're like, oh, those are the Lars, they got a baby, and, like, Obi-Wan's like, nope, and he uses the Force to turn around this land speeder to try and avoid him. But no, the book was really good. The antagonist, Warren Galt, who was in the book, he was alright. I mean, he sort of served the purpose of being the antagonist of the book, and, oh man, I think probably my favorite moment in the book, though, is, it's like the ending of the book, it's the climax, and Obi-Wan's helping the Tuskens sort of fight back against the settlers, who obviously were tricked into fighting because of Orion, who lied to them and scandaled them. They're not the bad, it's just Orion, this guy. And he's just, he takes out his lightsaber, and Orion's like, oh shit, he's a Jedi, and he's like, he suddenly realizes, like, what is happening. He's like, oh, I can probably escape and tell the Empire who he is, Obi-Wan Kenobi, but, there's, like, this creature called the Cryo Dragon. I can't really describe it, but just imagine a dragon on Tatooine, sort of like imagine if a Komodo dragon was a giant dragon, except that it was more jagged looking. I think that's the best way to describe it. But, no, that was just, and then he just, after, like, the realization that he's a Jedi, Obi-Wan just goes to town on this thing, man. And when you just read him, like, damn, it's just, it makes you appreciate Obi-Wan even more, but it doesn't ruin, like, the mystery of him. Like, from what I understand, and from what I know, I don't know much about Obi-Wan's past besides the prequels, but I don't even know what home planet he's from. I can probably look it up, and it's probably online, but yeah, I don't know anything about him beyond the prequels. Like, I don't know anything about his early life. So this book dives deeper into the character of Obi-Wan. It really shows his regret over what happened in the prequel trilogy and how terrible it was, because Anakin was like, Anakin, you were like a brother to me. I loved you. But no, you could sort of sense the great sadness and regret Obi-Wan felt over having to do that to Anakin, and sort of the betrayal of Anakin that he did to Obi-Wan and going to the dark side. So you really do feel that, and you really understand the pain Obi-Wan is through. There's, like, this one scene in the book where he's back home in his little hut, you know, the sort of hermit hut that he's in, and he's talking to Aileen. And if you know anything about the prequels, you really get a sense of, like, and what character Aileen sort of observes, like, oh, something really terrible has happened to him, or he did something really terrible. Like, I feel really sorry for him. He seems to be having a lot of regret. Okay, there are people going by. I'm just gonna pause. But you really do gain a sense of the great regret that Obi-Wan has over having to stop his brother and his friend. Despite how cheesy the prequels are, the ending to Episode 3 I still find quite sad, because you do feel the sense of betrayal and devastation in Obi-Wan, and it's really well reflected in this book. And this book serves as, like, perfect bridge between the prequels and Episode 4, because you really gain a sense of what Obi-Wan was like when he first came to Tatooine, and you sort of learn a little bit about what he did when he got to Tatooine during the 20-year period, or 19-year period, when he first, quote-unquote, met Luke. Obviously, it wasn't his first time then, as a baby, but sort of meeting Luke. And that would lead to Episode 4, but he really gained a sense of how tragic and sad that was, and the book does just a great job. It makes me think Obi-Wan's, like, the biggest badass. It makes me love his character even more. Like, one of the great things about the prequels was Ian McGregor's performance as Obi-Wan, and you really do feel like it is that version of the character, except, like, 10 times better. Like, it's so much better. And it flows perfectly naturally from the prequels to the original trilogy, which I really appreciate. It feels very natural. Like, the references to the prequels, they feel very natural in the book. It doesn't feel out of place. Like, it makes sense, and helps ties in the prequel trilogy to the sequel trilogy, which is something that I absolutely loved about the book. Overall, the book was pretty good. The writing style was good. The villain was fine. I really appreciate how they show the Tuskens more on Tatooine. They sort of show their culture and society. It gives a sense of what they were like, and how they, too, were just normal beings and normal people, despite just sort of different cultures and different ways of belief and different ways of life, despite them being, like, these really, really terrible creatures, he started gain a sense of sympathy for them because they're just trying to survive. They're trying to do the best they can. The A-arc loses her son in the book, and you sort of understand, like, as a mother, if you lost your son, you'd be very upset. And if they were killed by someone, some part of you naturally were like, I'm going to get revenge, and then I'm going to go kill that person. Obviously, that most of the time never happens. It isn't John Wick or something. But, no, you really do gain a sense of that, which I do really appreciate, and Obi-Wan is just a total badass. It, like, makes him 10 times better, and it makes me appreciate Ian McGregor as him even more. It makes me really want a Obi-Wan Kenobi standalone film on Tatooine even more. I think this book would be a perfect basis for Obi-Wan film, and they could totally make this canon again. Like, I don't see the problem in why they had to not make this canon. Also along with the book Darth Plagueis, which I'll probably also do a review later of. It's probably considered the second best part of the expanded universe after the Thrawn trilogy. But no, I quite enjoyed this book. I'm happy that it came across my radar and that I had heard of it. There is a toad trying to hop over a wall in front of me. I'm currently outside, that's why you may be hearing background noise. My family is currently asleep. But yeah, I would rate this book 7, like an 8 out of 10. I enjoyed it. It's probably one of the best Star Wars books that I've read so far. I've only read the Thrawn trilogy and this, so I quite enjoyed it for what it is. So yeah, that was my review of the book Star Wars Kenobi by John Jackson Miller, and I'll be uploading a book review of. I read a biography in Che Guevara. I'm currently in the middle of it. I'm like 400 pages in. It's going to take me like 3 more days to read. It's like 700 pages. But that'll be my next book review, and that'll be up shortly this week. Thank you all guys for listening and watching, and I shall see you next time. Bye-bye.